During a massive drought when just getting a sip of water was a struggle, my family managed to dig up an underground river. We had an endless supply of fresh water, and more fish than we could ever eat. While everyone else was tightening their belts just to survive, we were eating meat every single meal until we were sick of it. In my past life, I couldn't bear to watch the whole village suffer, so I told them about our secret river. But instead of being grateful, those greedy bastards looted everything we had. They even took our house. The village chief was the only one who felt bad for us, letting my family stay in an old cow shed. But right after the drought came a brutal blizzard. One by one, my whole family froze to death in the bitter cold. When I opened my eyes again, I was back in 1975, right before we discovered the underground river. As my senses came rushing back, I saw Jiao Titsu by the well, his ugly mug twisted in anger as he swung a heavy iron shovel at my dad, Lin Dehou. Baked yellow earth was split with massive cracks, and the blazing sun was enough to make anyone dizzy. The air reeked of dry dust. My dad and Jiao Titsu were screaming at each other by the well. Jiao Titsu was furious, accusing my dad of taking an extra bucket of water and stealing from the village. Seeing him raise that heavy shovel handle, my heart completely dropped. In my last life, this was exactly where my dad fought back, and ended up getting beaten to death. "Dad, watch out," I screamed, lunging forward to shield him. With a loud crack, the heavy wooden handle slammed right into the back of my head. The pain blinded me for a second, but I used the momentum to collapse on the ground and play dead. Jiao Titsu froze in terror. The iron shovel hit the dirt with a loud clank. My dad was completely stunned too, seeing me lying there motionless. He dropped his water buckets, his eyes turning blood red as he screamed, "Yinji! Don't scare me, son." Forgetting all about the fight, he hoisted me onto his back and sprinted frantically toward home. I could feel his back completely soaked in sweat, and I heard him quietly sobbing as he ran. But honestly, I felt a huge wave of relief. In this life, my dad was still alive. My two little sisters hadn't gone missing yet, either. I still had time to change everything. The second we got home, my dad gently laid me on the bed. I immediately opened my eyes. My mom, Wang Gilan, was crying her eyes out. She was just about to run for the doctor, but seeing me awake startled her so much she dropped her wash basin. I didn't have time to explain. I just grabbed my dad's hand and reached back to lock the door tight. "Mom, we'll deal with those thugs from the Zhao family later. Right now, I've got something that's gonna turn our whole family's luck around. I need to show you something," I whispered, keeping my voice incredibly low. I pointed straight toward our root cellar. Instead of hiking miles every single day just to fight over muddy water in that dried-up canal, why don't we just dig our own well right here? I whispered to them. My head was still wrapped in a bloody bandage, which made me look pretty terrifying. My dad was squatting by the doorway, puffing away on his old tobacco pipe. Hearing this, he just shook his head. "Yinji, that blow to the head knocked you silly. The drought's so bad the ground is cracked 3 inches deep. Even the oldest wells in the village are bone dry. Where on earth are we gonna find water? Plus, digging a well means hiring a professional. We'd have to buy bricks and stone. We can barely afford a decent meal right now. Where would we get the money for that?" I was stomping my feet in pure frustration. I leaned in close to his ear and whispered, "Dad, do you trust me? A couple days ago, I was checking the dirt in the back of the cellar. The soil's really damp, there's gotta be an active water vein down there. Looks like this drought's gonna drag on for a long time. If we just sit around waiting, people in the village are gonna starve to death. We can't just wait to die." When I said that, my voice naturally got a bit louder. My mom, Wang Gilan, heard the commotion, and rushed over from the kitchen, thinking the two of us were having a fight. But once she realized I wanted to dig a well, she was actually the first to agree. My mom chimed in to convince my dad. "The kid is right," she said. "Water is life. If we can actually strike water, our family will survive. Those bastards from the Zhao family won't let us fetch water. So we'll just dig our own." Lin Dehou was always a proud man, and hearing this, he fiercely crushed out his cigarette, gritted his teeth and agreed. Right then, he looked at the nasty wound on my head, and his eyes welled up with tears again. He muttered, "That bastard Jiao Titsu hit way too hard. We can't just let this go." Whenever the Zhao family was brought up, my blood would absolutely boil. In my past life, it was the Zhao family, throwing their weight around with their huge numbers. Who stole our house and ended up leaving my parents to freeze to death? Even though none of that has happened yet in this life, the seeds of hatred have already been sown. The Zhao family has a lot of brothers. If we fight them head on, my dad will definitely take a beating. But that won't stop me from collecting a little interest from them first. For dinner, our family shared some watery pumpkin soup. I had my 2 little sisters go to bed early. Then, I pulled my parents into the back room and pushed aside the heavy wooden bed in the corner, revealing the trapdoor to the dirt cellar where we usually hide our sweet potatoes. Dad, we dig straight down from here. I've checked the feng shui, and it's perfect. There's definitely something big down there, I said, pointing to a corner of the dirt cellar. Lin Dehou didn't say another word. He took off his shirt, grabbed the hoe, and got right to work. He was a hell of a worker, built with nothing but solid muscle. It wasn't long before he had dug out a massive pile of dirt. Wang Gilan wasn't sitting idle, either. She held up an oil lamp by the hole to light the way, handing him a towel to wipe his sweat from time to time. As for the dirt he dug up, we carried it out basket by basket and piled it up right against the backyard wall. This soil will be great for fertilizing the land later. Perfect for growing some vegetables. And just like that, our family worked in secret under the bed. For most of the night, we only stopped to rest when our bones felt like they were falling apart. Bright and early the next morning, I headed out before the sun even came up. Before I left, I told my dad, "Dad, when you go to work today, go straight to the village chief and file a complaint. Tell him Zhao Titsu nearly beat me to death. Don't worry about anything else. I'm heading to town to take care of some business." Lin Dehou was really worried, but he still had to go work on the water conservation project. It was a mandatory task assigned by the production brigade. Every single household had to send someone. As soon as he got to the construction site, he went straight to find the village chief, Zhao Decheng. Now, this Zhao Decheng was Zhao Tieju's own uncle. He was squatting on a rock, casually taking a drink of water. After listening to my dad's complaint, Zhao Decheng didn't even bat an eyelid. He slowly drawled, "Wanshin. You can't blame this all on Titsu. Your boy tried to sneak an extra bucket of water. That's stealing from the collective. Titsu was just keeping things fair." My dad was shaking with rage, but what could he do? The man was the village chief. He just swallowed his anger and explained, "I was delivering that water to Grandpa Guo, the old pensioner. I wasn't keeping it for myself." But Zhao Decheng just waved him off impatiently. My dad knew the old fox was just protecting his son. Furious but helpless, he went back to moving rocks. Meanwhile, I headed straight to the east side of the village, right to Grandpa Guo's house. As soon as I walked in, I dropped to my knees. I pointed at the wound on my head and cried, "Grandpa Guo. Zhao Titsu didn't just steal your water. He even called you a cursed, childless old man. I was trying to bring you that water, and he grabbed a club as thick as a bowl. He almost beat me to death right then and there. Just look at this wound." Grandpa Guo had a fiery temper. Hearing this, he slammed his walking stick against the ground so hard it echoed. "That little bastard has lost his damn mind. How dare he do this? If this is true, I'm having him arrested and sent to the township office right now." By the time Zhao Decheng saw the officials from the township show up, he was absolutely dumbfounded. All his arrogant village chief attitude vanished instantly. He was practically bowing and scraping as he led the way. Zhao Titsu was still up on the dam, acting tough. "Lin, you backstabbing piece of trash," he yelled. I just gave him a cold sneer and completely ignored him. The township official kept a stern face and spoke with absolute authority, immediately ordering the militia to drag him away. They said they would investigate thoroughly before dealing with him. That's when Zhao Titsu knew he was completely screwed. Screwed over by me, the guy he had always looked down on. Right then, his younger brother, Zhao Tianyu, rushed over. Seeing his brother get arrested, he charged at me with eyes full of pure rage. "Lin Yinji, you just wait. You're dead meat." Later that night, back at home, I told my parents everything. My dad, Lin Dehou, was grinning from ear to ear. He kept praising me for doing so well. During dinner, to celebrate the occasion, my mom did something unprecedented. Into our pumpkin soup, she sprinkled a whole handful of precious white rice. The delicious aroma filled the entire room. I led my parents back down into the dirt cellar hidden under the bed. By the night of the third day, my dad struck the ground with his shovel, and we suddenly heard a sharp crack. The dirt right under our feet actually caved in, and a sudden, cool breeze rushed up from the pitch-black hole. That breeze carried the rich, long-lost scent of moisture. Just breathing it in made our whole bodies feel refreshed. We broke through, I whispered excitedly. My dad's hands were literally shaking. We lit up 2 torches and climbed down the ladder. Down below was actually a massive, natural limestone cave. The ceiling was covered in bizarre stalactites, all sparkling in the light. We hadn't even taken 2 steps when we heard the splashing sound of rushing water. We turned past a stone wall, and the sight before us left my whole family completely speechless. It was an underground river, 5 or 6 meters wide. The water was so clear you could see the cobblestones at the bottom. Under the glow of the torches, the surface of the river was densely churning with splashes. "Dad, look at those catfish," I shouted, pointing to the shallow water near the bank. The catfish were pitch black and incredibly fat. Each one had to weigh over 10 pounds. They were packed together at the edge, feeding on the nutrients in the mud. My dad, Lin Dehou, dropped to his knees right by the water. He cupped his hands and desperately gulped it down. Tears streamed down his face as he drank. "It's running water. It's completely sweet. Thank God, our family is finally saved." My mom, Wang Gilan, was wiping away her own tears of pure joy. Looking at those countless fish, I knew this wasn't just life-saving water. In times like these, it was the most valuable treasure we could ever find. This limestone cave is incredibly spacious. We wandered around down there for most of the night. It's as cool as an icebox down here, and the air is just filled with this rich, damp scent. It's a completely different world from the bone-dry, parched land up top. It wasn't until our torch was about to burn out that we reluctantly climbed back up to the surface and sealed the cellar door shut. Once we dragged the wooden bed back over it, Mom and Dad sat by the kerosene lamp, practically panting with excitement. I lowered my voice and said dead serious, "Mom, Dad, we have to take this secret to our graves. No one on the outside can ever know about this. If word gets out, our lives will be completely ruined." Lin Dehou took a deep drag from his pipe and nodded firmly. "I know, never show off your wealth. And right now, water is gold. Tomorrow, I'm going to build the backyard wall a good bit higher. I'll stick some broken glass along the top, too. That'll keep the Zhao family from trying to climb over." Mom chimed in, "Tomorrow, I'll dig out those Napa cabbage seeds I saved from last year. Now that we have water, we can actually grow fresh greens in the backyard. Maybe we can even raise a few chickens. Eggs are practically money themselves." None of us slept a wink that night. The next day, when we went out to work on the irrigation ditch, Mom and Dad's eyes were bloodshot from staying up, but they were bursting with energy. They even walked with a new sense of confidence. Later that evening, I sneaked back home early. I dug out an old fishing net. The moment it got dark outside, my dad and I slipped right back into the cave. Turns out, there were a few narrow crevices down there. We gathered some large rocks and built a small dam where the underground stream narrowed. We left just enough of an opening to set the net. Then, my dad grabbed a thick branch and started thrashing the water like crazy, chasing all the fish right toward the opening. Suddenly, the water just exploded into chaos. A massive swarm of fish slammed into the net over and over. It was so heavy, it nearly dragged me straight into the water. "Dad, hurry, help me, I'm coming, pull it up, pull the net." My dad's voice was practically hoarse from all the excitement. When we finally hauled it up, the net was absolutely packed with thrashing catfish. There were a bunch of fat, juicy loaches in there, too. The biggest catfish had to weigh at least 15 or 16 pounds. It slapped against the rock floor with a heavy thud. Just from this one single haul, we had at least 50 pounds of fish. Lin Dehou just stared at the pile, his eyes nearly popping out of his head. My God, just this one haul is enough to feed us for 2 straight weeks. I told him to dump the fish into a natural little rock pool near the bank. It was connected to the underground stream, so the water was fresh and flowing. The fish wouldn't die. If we keep hoarding them like this, it won't be long at all before we've got over 1,000 pounds of fish saved up in here. Later, when my mom finished her farm chores and sneaked down into the cave, she saw the pool just swarming with fish. She was absolutely speechless. Good heavens above, we've literally struck a gold mine. Ha ha ha. We didn't dare cook any of it back in the village, terrified the smell would drift out and bring trouble. So, my dad and I headed out of the village under the cover of darkness. With this terrible drought, there wasn't even the sound of a single cricket on the road. The only thing you could hear was the squeak, of our cart's axle. And it sounded incredibly loud in the dead of night. It wasn't until 1 in the morning that we finally reached this remote, isolated spot. It was completely surrounded by rusty, rotting steel frames, and the air just reeked of mildew and metallic rust. I reached into my shirt and pulled out a folded up, crumpled piece of old newspaper. I stepped up to a wooden door and knocked lightly, 3 long taps and 2 short ones. With a slow creak, the door opened just a crack, and a guy wearing a beaten-up straw hat poked his head out. This was old Qian. If the big factory canteens in the city ever needed anything under the table, he was the guy to see. Old Qian took the torn half of the newspaper from my hand and matched it up with his own. Only then did he let out a sigh of relief, lowering his voice to say, "What took you so long? Where's the stuff?" I pulled back the old quilt on the wheelbarrow, revealing the fresh, lively catfish underneath. Old Qian's eyes went wide. He reached out and grabbed one that weighed a good 10 pounds. The slippery fish thrashed wildly in his hands. Good Lord, in times like these, where on earth did you get so many fat catfish? Marveling at the catch, he hurriedly waved us over to follow him deep into the warehouse. Back in those days of the planned economy, everyone kept their faces wrapped up, only showing their eyes. 50 cents a pound. No haggling, I got straight to the point. Beside me, Lin Dehou was listening in absolute shock. Back then, pork was only 70 or 80 cents. Selling fish for 50 cents was an absolute fortune. But old Qian didn't even blink. Deal, I need these fish urgently, I'll take the whole lot. I also had my eye on the scarce goods he kept stashed in his warehouse. I'll also need a 50-pound bag of white flour, and throw in a stack of industrial ration coupons. Old Qian swiftly dragged the items out from behind a pile of scrap newspapers. These were all treasures he had scraped together through various underground channels. Dad stared at that snow-white flour, unable to tear his eyes away. His hands were trembling non-stop. Once the deal was done, I shoved the cash into my dad's hands. Dad frantically sewed it deep into the hidden seam of his waistband, terrified the money would grow wings and fly away. On the way back, even though the wheelbarrow was loaded down with heavy supplies, we were suddenly interrupted by frantic knocking on our door. Dehou's wife, "Are you home? Can I borrow some kindling?" That was old lady Song, trying to snoop around. The old bat was famous for her sharp eyes and sensitive nose. She loved nothing more than sniffing out who was eating well in the village. I shot my mom a warning look. Wang Gilan quickly shoved the bowl of meat into the cupboard, wiped the grease off her lips, and cracked the door open just a sliver. "Auntie Song, we haven't even started a fire yet. We were just gonna make do with a little pumpkin soup, so we don't have any kindling to spare." Old lady Song craned her neck, trying to peek inside, sniffing the air aggressively, but my mom had already aired out most of the smell. "Why'd I smell meat?" "You must be hallucinating from hunger, Auntie." In times like these, even the tree bark has been chewed clean. Where on earth would we get meat? After finally getting rid of the old snooper, I felt even more on edge. Because I hadn't slept a wink last night, I was definitely dragging my feet when I went out to work the fields today. The village's work point tally clerk was Zhao Meifeng. She was Zhao Decheng's biological sister, and always threw her weight around just because her last name was Zhao. She strutted around the village with her nose stuck in the air. When our shift ended, I said, "Zhao Meifeng didn't just dock my points today, she even shorted your wife's points from the day before yesterday by 2. Listen, as long as all of us outsiders stick together, she won't be able to keep that cozy position of hers." I lowered my voice and gave Honest Song a sly suggestion, telling him to go home and grumble about it to his mom, old lady Song. That old bat might be terribly annoying, but when it came to protecting her own family's interests, she was ruthless. Sure enough, the very next day, over the stolen work points, old lady Song got into a vicious scratching match with Zhao Meifeng at the brigade headquarters. It was absolute chaos. Taking advantage of the mayhem, I stood on the sidelines and fanned the flames, riling up all the other outsider villagers who had been suffering in silence for way too long, getting them to completely turn against the Zhao family. Zhao Decheng finally had no other choice. To calm everyone's anger, he had to suspend Zhao Meifeng for the time being. saying they'd pick someone new. Once night fell, I brought him 5 pounds of rice. So he handed the donkey over to me. Yinji, be extra careful when you head out right now. Don't worry, brother Guo, I know what I'm doing. My dad and I know the ropes this time. With the donkey cart, hauling the fish is a whole lot easier. We pulled up another net from the underground river. Nobody dared to take the blame for sabotaging our production. When Zhao Decheng was called down to the commune office, his face was terrifyingly dark. He stared at the receipts and medical reports, every single one stamped with the big red seal of the county hospital. He couldn't choke out a single word. The Zhao family stayed up half the night figuring things out. In the end, they decided to try the soft approach first. Even if it cost them a fortune, they had to make this go away. That night, with a grim face, Zhao Decheng turned to his older brother, Zhao Wankai. Brother. If the Lin family won't change their tune. Zhao Wankai, being the village leader, cared about his reputation more than anything else. He slammed his smoking pipe against the table with a deafening crack. Deep down, Zhao Wankai knew damn well. His boy, Tai Zhu, only threw punches to help Zhao Decheng fight for the water supply. There was no way his side was paying for all of this alone. The very next day, Zhao Decheng, looking furious, dragged Zhao Wankai along, carrying a box of pastries, and walked right into the hospital ward. I was lying there with my eyes shut, pretending to be knocked out cold. Lin Dehou stood his ground in front of the bed, looking like he was ready to fight to the death. Brother Lin, Tai Zhu is just young and hot-headed. Look at what a mess this has become. We're all neighbors here. Zhao Decheng forced out a stiff, painful smile. I slowly peeled my eyes open and pulled a piece of paper from under my pillow. It was stamped with the big red seal for a severe injury report. I glared at him, freezing cold. This injury might never heal for the rest of my life. I just want to know. Zhao Wankai's cheek twitched violently. He jerked his head around and roared at Zhao Decheng. Look at the fine piece of work you raised. Hurry up and apologize to the Lin family. In the end, under the heavy pressure of clan leader Zhao Wankai, they coughed up a full 400 yuan in compensation. But that wasn't all. He rubbed his eyes, thinking to himself, this kid Yinji is a freaking genius. Zhao Decheng always acted so high and mighty, but behind closed doors, he was actually messing around with his own nephew's wife. Guo Shui held his breath and kept spying. About an hour passed. Suddenly, the faint crying of a baby came from inside the house. Guo Shui froze. Didn't Sun Chaoyun's oldest kid get sent back to her mother's place ages ago? He quietly crept a few steps closer and pressed his ear right up against the window. He could hear Zhao Decheng's annoyed voice from inside. Why isn't that little bastard dead yet? Didn't I tell you to dump him further away? That is my own flesh and blood. How could I actually kill him? Sun Chaoyun sobbed quietly. I wrapped him up tight and left him where those huge black dogs roam. I figured whatever happens was just his fate. Who would have thought that little piece of shit Yinji would actually save him? Damn it, Zhao Decheng growled under his breath. That birthmark on the kid's waist. It's exactly the same as mine. If anyone sees it, we'll both end up eating a bullet. Tomorrow, at the general meeting, we need to get rid of this little brat. Listening outside the window, Guo Shui's blood ran completely cold. She said you stole her baby, and even accused you of trying to assault her. Then Zhao Decheng led the Zhao brothers to stir up trouble, tying you up right away to hand you over to the cops. Zhao Wankai even said, as long as they can lock you up for good. Lin Dehou had just come in from chopping wood in the yard. Hearing this, the axe in his hand hit the ground with a loud clank. His face went completely pale with rage. Those goddamn animals, did they ruin our whole family in a past life or what? Now they want to play dirty again in this life? I swear, I'm going to take a hoe and smash them to pieces today. Dad, don't do anything rash. I quickly grabbed hold of him. Fighting them head on will only play right into their trap. For today's showdown, we don't need to lift a finger. We just need to open our mouths. That alone will make sure the Zhao family never recovers. I leaned in close to their ears and carefully explained every single detail of the plan I had already figured out. Guo Shui's eyes lit up brighter and brighter as he listened, finally slapping his thigh hard. Yinji, I seriously gotta hand it to your brains. Today, I really want to see how that old bastard Zhao Decheng is going to get out of this mess. At exactly 8 o'clock, the brigade headquarters playground was already packed with a massive crowd of people. In this severe drought, the villagers didn't have much work to do anyway. But out of nowhere, we get a black sheep among us. He pointed a finger right at me, his voice suddenly rising to a shout. Yinji, a few days ago, you brought back a baby girl from outside with a shady background. Everyone in the village thought you were just being kind-hearted, but who would have known that you actually snatched this kid? And not only that, you even had dirty intentions towards the women in our very own village. You even dared to mess with our Zhao family. Today, I am going to step up for the authorities, and for all the party members in the village, to properly interrogate you, you worthless piece of trash. The moment those words came out, the crowd below instantly exploded into an uproar. Old Lady Song squeezed her way to the very front, immediately joining in on the commotion. Knew that child came from a sketchy place. Sure enough, she was stolen. This boy Yinji looks decent enough on the outside, but behind our backs, he actually does such wicked things. The people from the Zhao family immediately echoed her, throwing out a barrage of insults. A few of the younger Zhao men even rolled up their sleeves, wanting to rush up and grab me. All of you, freeze right there. I gave a cold, sharp shout. The voice wasn't loud, but everyone's eyes simultaneously locked dead onto Zhao Dechang's face. Zhao Dechang's face instantly went from red to white, and then from white to a sickly green. He pointed at me, his entire body trembling. You are talking absolute nonsense. You're spitting toxic lies. I'll tear your damn mouth off, you liar. I shouted out toward the crowd below, Guo Shui. Take what you saw and heard last night, and right in front of all the men and women of this village. Say it out loud, word for word. Guo Shui took heavy strides up onto the stage. Holding that written testimony with the thumbprint right in his hand, he started reading it loudly. From Zhao Dechang knocking on Sun Chaoyun's door in the middle of the night, to the conversation the two had inside the room. From Zhao Dechang telling Sun Chaoyun to get rid of the baby, to the two of them plotting to falsely accuse me at the assembly today. The eyes of the people in the crowd grew wider and wider, and their mouths dropped open in shock. Nobody could have ever imagined that the usually strict and proper village chief was actually sleeping around with his own nephew's wife, and even had a baby with her. And just to cover up this dirty scandal, he was even going to personally murder his own flesh and blood. Bullshit, Guo Shui, you are slandering me. I'm going to report you to the cops. Zhao Dechang roared hysterically. I squatted down, looking at his blood-covered face. My eyes were ice cold. Zhao Tijun, your Zhao family messed with me first. In my past life, you drove my entire family into a cowshed to freeze to death. And in this life, Zhao Titsu nearly beat my dad to death. Zhao Dechang tried to lock me up in a cell, and now, you show up at my door in the middle of the night with knives. Tell me, how should we settle this score? I didn't waste any more breath on them. I just had Guo Shui tie them up, and sent them straight to the commune the moment the sun came up. Breaking and entering, armed assault, even if they didn't kill anyone, that's still enough to make them rot in there for a good while. The authorities already had a bad impression of the Zhao family because of the Zhao Dechang incident. Seeing this mess, they just took Zhao Tijun and Zhao Tianyu, threw the two brothers into a cell, and left them waiting to be dealt with. After this whole ordeal, the Zhao family was completely finished. Their men were either locked up or sick. The remaining old folks, women, and kids were too terrified to even step outside. But I still didn't let my guard down. I knew that even if the Zhao family only had one breath left, they would still try to take a bite out of me. Sure enough, it didn't even take 3 days for something to happen. That morning, the villagers went to the public well to haul water. The moment they pulled up a bucket, they found dead rats floating right in it. My mom actually sneaked a small pot, some bowls, and chopsticks straight down from the house. Using the running water from the underground river, she set up a little stove right there in the cave. She simmered a pot of milky white catfish soup. She didn't use any fancy spices. She just tossed in a handful of coarse salt, but the smell was so incredibly rich it made you want to cry. In this year of severe drought where everyone else was drinking muddy water, our family of 3 sat clustered in that underground cave, drinking piping hot, savory soup and eating perfectly tender, fresh fish. It was so damn delicious, we were on the verge of shedding tears. Between sips, my mom said, "This is seriously just too good. I'll make another pot for Shoying and the others later. We have to let the smell fade before we take it upstairs." We absolutely cannot let outsiders catch a single whiff of fish. I stared out at the pitch-black river water, scheming in my head about how to make the Zhao family pay back every single thing they owed us. Dad, let's clean up these fish in a bit. I'm taking you somewhere good tonight, I said, while rolling up the bedding in the room. It revealed the heavy trapdoor underneath. Lin Dehou was squatting by the edge of the bed, puffing on his dry pipe. Hearing what I said, his hand trembled a little. He didn't even notice the hot ash falling right onto his foot. Yinji, do we really have to go tonight? The patrol teams outside are keeping a really tight watch right now. If we get caught in a drought year, fish are solid gold. If we miss this window, the price is going to tank. I cut him off, my expression completely dead set. First, I laid down a few thick layers of tarpaulin around the cellar opening so the fish slime wouldn't mess up our quilts. That bedding was our family's lifeline. If it caught a whiff of muddy fish stink, Mom would nag us to death for 6 months straight. Dad and I worked together, and from the hidden river beneath the bed, we hauled up over 200 pounds of catfish. These fish were absolutely massive. They thrashed for their lives inside the snakeskin bags, slapping against the dirt floor with heavy, echoing smacks. It took everything we had to drag those heavy bags of fish up through the narrow cellar hatch. Lin Dehou tightened his belt and helped me haul the fish out to the backyard. He patted our beat-up old wheelbarrow with a thick layer of straw first. We loaded the fish on top, then covered them up with a grimy old quilt. Finally, we weighed it down with a few bundles of dry firewood. From the outside, it just looked like a normal cart of wood. Let's go, Dad, we'll take the back trails. I pulled the rope from the front, and Dad pushed from behind. But his steps were way lighter than when we set out. The sky was just starting to get light. When we finally made it back home, Wang Gilan hadn't slept a wink. She was sitting on the threshold, wiping away tears. The second she saw us, she rushed over and bolted the door tight. You're back, no trouble on the way, right? Lin Dehou's face was flushed with pure joy. He slammed a sack of white flour from inside his coat onto the table. Wife, hurry up and cook. Today, everyone in the family gets a boiled egg, and make some real white rice porridge. We kept the front door locked shut that entire day. Mom stuffed every single crack in the doors and windows with rags, terrified the smell would drift over to old lady Song's house next door. A massive pig's head we scored from the black market was braising in the pot. The rich scent of chili and star anise filled every inch of our cramped little house. The white rice was scooped into bowls, steaming and pure, topped with thick, fatty slices of pork. My two little sisters, Lin Chunyan and Lin Choeui, were literally drooling. Eat up, but keep it quiet. We barely got 2 bites in before we heard old lady Song from next door, screaming her head off with that raspy, broken gong voice of hers. It's a sin, eating that good in times like these. Trying to torture people to death with that smell, you wicked folks. I glanced at the workpoint ledger. My blood instantly boiled. Zhao Meifeng, why the hell does everyone else get 10 points for the exact same work? But you only give me 8? Zhao Meifeng shot me a dirty sideways glare. What were you up to last night? Dragging your feet all damn day. You're obviously slacking off. I gave you 8 points. And that's me doing you a massive favor. If you don't like it, go cry to the township committee. A few of the brawny guys from the Zhao family cracked up laughing, whistling at me just to rub it in. I kept my mouth shut, but inside, I was sneering. Nobody in the village could stand Zhao Meifeng. She'd been shaving points off anyone who wasn't part of her clan for ages. On the way home, I quietly pulled Song Laoshi aside. He was old lady Song's son, a simple guy, but his wife, Yang Shouying, was highly educated. She used to be one of the sent-down youths. Brother Song, I'd bet my life your wife is 100 times better at math than Zhao Meifeng. This ledger job should go to whoever actually knows how to read. Why let an elementary school dropout hog it? Song Laoshi blinked, completely caught off guard. He scratched his head. We're from the Song family, man. We can't win a fight against the Zhaos. I wouldn't be so sure about that. This time, we picked out nothing but the biggest ones. Over 300 pounds of fish. Just as we were rolling up to the black market, the sky suddenly went dark. We barely got the stall set up when that girl in the red scarf showed up again. She really was strikingly beautiful. So expressive she barely needed words. Hey boss, give me 2 of your biggest fish. My grandpa is super sick, and he's just craving a bowl of fresh broth. Her voice was crisp and clear, but you could hear the raw panic in it. I didn't waste any time and just picked out the 2 fattest catfish for her. They weighed over 30 pounds. Here you go. These fish are full of life. Eating them will definitely keep you healthy, I joked. The girl looked at me, a hint of a smile showing in her eyes. Thanks. My name is Shen Qing. If you ever get fish this good again, save them for me next time. I watched her walk away behind a tall, skinny man, disappearing behind the scrap piles, and felt a strange little flutter in my chest. I sold out of all my fish on this trip, and my money bag felt a lot heavier. Right before leaving, I spotted an old lady crying in a dark corner of the scrapyard, guarding a small bamboo basket. The basket was full of fluffy little chicks, all chirping away. Excuse me, ma'am. How much for the chicks? 30 cents each. Please, just buy a few. We completely ran out of food at home. I felt so bad for her. The cracks on her hands were terribly deep. So, without overthinking it, I'll take them all. 25 chicks. Here's $7.50. Keep the change. Whoa, no, ma'am, please don't do that. The old lady was so grateful she almost dropped to her knees. On the ride back home, the donkey cart was loaded with 200 pounds of grain and 25 little chicks, along with a huge pile of cotton cloth, oil, salt, soy sauce, and vinegar. Lin DeHou drove the donkey, while scolding me, "You're too soft-hearted, kid. In times like these, it's hard enough just feeding ourselves, yet you still bought all these chickens. Do you know how much grain they're gonna eat?" I just smiled and didn't argue. Only I knew the truth. Even though this drought was going to last a while longer, my underground river had plenty of water. We'd be growing vegetables in the backyard in no time. Then the chickens would have bugs to eat, and we'd have meat. Our lives were only going to get better and better. By the time we got close to home, the eastern sky was already turning gray. I looked at the Zhao village slowly appearing in the distance, and silently made a promise. Mom, Dad, our family will never live like slaves again in this lifetime. When we got off the cart to unload, I made sure to walk as quietly as possible. But I still heard a sudden cough coming from the corner of the wall. In the dead of night, that cough sounded piercingly loud. It scared the living daylights out of Lin DeHou. He quickly shielded the sacks on the cart, and looked all around us. Luckily, it was dead quiet. Not a single kerosene lamp was lit, and there were no flashlight beams swaying in the dark. My dad and I finally let out a sigh of relief, and quietly sneaked into the yard. We hauled all the goods into the house at once, and quickly bolted the door shut behind us. Seeing that we had made it back safely, Wang Gilan finally lit a dim little lamp. Her eyes immediately caught the shiny enamel jar sitting on the table. She absolutely loved it, reaching out to gently stroke it over and over. She lowered her voice and said, "This jar is just beautiful. It'll be perfect for storing lard. Those gossiping women in Zhao village will die of jealousy when they see it." I laid out everything we bought one by one, saying, "A pair of cloth shoes for everyone. And stuff to make new clothes." Finally, from the basket, I carefully scooped up those fluffy little chicks. They were still chirping away. So under the cover of darkness, I sneaked them into the hen's nest in the backyard. Let's see if the old hen can handle them. An old hen leading her little chicks. It's a natural instinct. Wang Gilan looked at the basket full of little guys, her eyes full of joy. "These little ones are wonderful," she said. "Once they grow up, they'll lay eggs. We can trade the eggs for money. Our family finally has something to look forward to." In the eyes of his country folks, as long as there's livestock running around the house, you feel at peace. It feels like you can get through any hardship. My dad and I got home early tonight. Wang Gilan went straight into the kitchen and boiled us 2 perfectly round, brown-shelled eggs. Before the rest of the village woke up, he took me down into the secret cave hidden beneath the bed, right next to the underground river. She chopped up the pork fat I had brought home and set up the big iron pot. As the flames danced, the pure white lard started melting down. The whole cave filled with an incredibly mouth-watering smell. She even fried up a big plate of dough drops. Her heart ached seeing her husband and son work so hard, so she splurged and sprinkled a big handful of precious brown sugar right on top. "Eat up while it's hot, have some more. You boys haven't slept a wink all night. It's been a tough shift. You can't let yourselves get worn out." When the noodles were ready, sitting right on top of the bowl was a beautifully poached egg. She scooped in a huge spoonful of the fresh lard and sprinkled on a handful of crisp green onions. Coated in that rich fat, every single strand of the hand-rolled noodles was perfectly smooth. Just one bite, and your whole mouth exploded with that rich, savory flavor. It filled you with absolute, deep-down contentment. Hurry up and catch some sleep. You still have to go to work when the sun comes up. Don't let anyone notice anything suspicious. She gently warned us, then immediately turned back to fuss over the hen and her new chicks. That morning, while heading to work at the canal dam, I bumped into Honest Song. From a distance, he reached out and handed me a crumpled, cheap cigarette. Seeing no one around, he leaned in close and whispered, "Yinji. Yesterday, Zhao Dechang called my wife and me over to see him. Thanks to your brilliant idea, Yang Shouying is officially locked in as the new work-point recorder." He kept thanking me as he spoke, his eyes shining with pure gratitude. He said that without me, his family could never have won against the Zhao family in this lifetime. I just smiled and replied, "Hey, that's only because your wife actually knows how to read and write. Now that she's the one keeping score. Zhao Meifeng won't be able to steal your work points anymore. Your lives are definitely going to get better." Honestly, I was feeling pretty exhausted right about then. I hadn't slept at all last night. Plus, I was thinking about the mud bricks we still needed to make for the courtyard wall. My dad just couldn't handle all that by himself. So, I pulled aside a few of the guys in the village I'm on good terms with, and asked if they could come help out at my place after work tomorrow. The moment they heard there'd be meat dishes and real white rice to eat, every single one of their eyes lit up. They beat their chests and promised they would be there right on time, later that afternoon during our shift. The recorder really had been swapped out for Yang Shouying, and sure enough, my work points were smoothly logged as a perfect 10 out of 10. After knocking off work, I led the donkey out to feed it, and then quietly took a few big eggs over to repay old man Guo Shui. He took the eggs, glanced around nervously, and suddenly dropped his voice to a whisper. "Yinji, you better watch your back. I heard Zhao Dechang has been pulling strings over at the commune. It sounds like Zhao Titsu is going to be released in just a few days." When I heard the news, my heart skipped a beat, but I didn't let it show on my face. When I got back home, I told my folks everything that happened. My dad, Lin Dehou, was so furious he jumped right up on the spot, cursing up a storm. "That piece of trash, Zhao Titsu. They're just gonna let him out like that? I'm going straight over there to deal with him." Hearing this, my head just started spinning. I quickly grabbed him and lowered my voice. "Going head to head will only hurt us. The Zhao family has deep roots in this village. We need a different approach." I leaned in close to his ear, and carefully laid out the master plan I had been secretly putting together in my head. Around 9 at night, right when the village was at its quietest, a terrifying scream suddenly rang out from our courtyard, followed by my mom's earth-shattering wailing. "Help! Somebody help! My son isn't breathing." A lot of families quickly lit their kerosene lamps. Neighbors threw on their coats and ran out to see what was going on. First thing the next morning, Old Lady Song had spread the news all over the village, saying the Lin family's boy was rolling on the floor with a splitting headache last night. He couldn't even speak. Wang Gilan was crying, begging anyone to use their cart to take me to the hospital. In the end, Old Man Ding, the cart driver, felt sorry for us and helped haul me away. During work hours, Old Man Ding was still shivering as he told people. That Lin Yinji, his face was as white as a sheet. When his dad and I lifted him onto the tractor, he was completely limp. Now, the whole village knew. I had suffered some serious damage from that brick Zhao Titsu hit me with, and it had finally caught up with me. The village elders were all shaking their heads and sighing. "Is the head a place you can just go around smashing?" The young lad just gritted his teeth and kept working at the time. Now that the root of the injury has flared up, it might just cost him his life. But honestly, this time, I was already lying in a hospital bed at the county public hospital, my nose filled with the sharp smell of disinfectant. When my mom, Wang Gilan, paid for the tractor ride, her hands were actually shaking. It broke her heart to spend that money, but she still had to play along with my act. Wiping away tears as she handed over the cash, seeing me clutching my head and groaning non-stop, and hearing that I was hit hard by a brick a few days ago, the doctor immediately got dead serious. He ordered all sorts of checkups right on the spot. Doctors back in these days were pretty naive. Seeing my extreme reactions, plus my dad standing off to the side with a long, miserable face, saying how poor our family was, and that we only came because I couldn't take the pain anymore, the doctor went straight to writing suspected severe concussion on my medical record, along with possible intracranial damage, pending investigation. Just as I had instructed him, my dad took all those diagnostic certificates and receipts, stamped with big red official seals, and carefully tucked every single one of them inside his coat. This was our family's absolute protective charm. I settled into the hospital for my stay. My old man shouted loudly right in front of the doctor, "Doctor, you have to use the best medicine. Even if I have to sell everything we own, I have to get my boy cured. We will do our absolute best. Please, sir, try to calm down." Over the next 2 days in the hospital, it was non-stop injections and pills. The medical bills kept piling up, one after another. Whenever my folks saw that the hospital room was empty, they would rush over to the township commune to cause a huge scene, especially standing guard outside the detention center where Zhao Titsu was locked up. Wang Gilan sat right at the commune's main gate, slapping her thighs and wailing at the top of her lungs. "Zhao Titsu beat someone to death. That murderer needs to pay with his life." She claimed I was in the county hospital fighting for my life, and that they had already spent over $200 in just 2 days. That massive amount left the commune staff completely dumbfounded. $200 in 1975 was 10 years of savings for a lot of families. It was a full year's salary for an official worker. The commune was planning to let Zhao Titsu go in a couple of days, but now, the tides have completely turned. Those fish were incredibly precious. So, I made up a story, saying that during my last trip to town, I saw some live catfish for sale. They didn't require ration tickets and weren't even expensive. I bought a few to keep at home, and brought some over just for him to try. Guo Shui knew how hard it was to get fish like that. With the severe drought this year, the rivers were completely dried up. Where would anyone even find fish? But since his family hadn't tasted fish in ages, he didn't put up much of a fuss. He happily called Uncle Guo over to share a few drinks. While we were eating, there was white rice on the table, along with a massive pot of catfish and tofu stew. Just looking at it made your mouth water. Guo Shui poured the drinks, and casually brought up the situation with Zhao Titsu. He said, even though Zhao Dechang paid up, he's definitely holding a grudge and plotting something nasty. All the officials in the village are from the Zhao family. They're bound to make things difficult for you sooner or later. I honestly didn't see it that way, though. No matter how ruthless the Zhao family is, they wouldn't dare commit murder or arson. I just need to watch my back. You're taking this a lot better than I would, kid. Giving someone a concussion like that, getting locked up for 6 months to a year is a given. Heck, he could even get 3 years. Hearing that, I glanced around the room, then leaned in close to Guo Shui's ear, and whispered my plan to him, hoping he'd be willing to help me out. By the time I left, it was already pitch black outside. Guo Shui walked me to the door, watching until I completely disappeared into the night. When he went back inside, his heart was still pounding in his chest. He saw that his uncle was still there. Looking deep in thought, Guo Shui couldn't help but wipe the sweat from his forehead, glancing nervously at his uncle. "Look at you, all worked up," his uncle scoffed. "If the kid is brave enough to suggest it, why are you too scared to actually do it? I think his idea is brilliant. You really ought to give it a shot. It's not like you have anything to lose anyway." As soon as Uncle Guo said that, Guo Shui nodded vigorously. "You're right, Uncle. The moment I got home, I found my dad absolutely fuming. I asked what was wrong, and it turned out that Lin Dehou had bumped into Zhao Tieju's older brother, Zhao Tijun, at the village entrance. The guy had blocked his path and cursed him out, screaming that we'd spent every last dime of the Zhao family's life savings. The two of them nearly came to blows. Thank goodness some villagers stepped in to pull them apart. Otherwise, my dad probably would have gotten badly hurt. I put on a stern face and gave my dad a good scolding. We have that underground river beneath our house now. The day we strike it rich and live comfortably is just around the corner. Your life is worth way too much right now. Is it really worth risking it all to fight with those worthless pieces of trash? You need to listen to me on this one. I've got everything planned out." Lin Dehou was still a bit annoyed, but after my mom, Wang Gilan, shot him a glaring look, he had no choice but to sit there and sulk. After all, I was the one who discovered the underground river. Our son knows what he's doing. Just listen to him, he won't steer us wrong, she said. Later that night, my dad was muttering to himself. We've burned through quite a bit of our money this time around. Maybe we should head out and sell some more fish. Not for now, I replied. We've got much more important things to handle tomorrow. Plus, we need to hurry up and fix the courtyard wall. That's a top priority right now. I've got my own plan. At a crucial time like this, someone's bound to have their eyes on my family. Especially the Zhao family. It's much safer to get Guo Shui on our side first. The next day, when I was heading to the township, Zhao Decheng looked absolutely furious. He glared at me like he wanted to eat me alive. If the village had a few more troublemakers like me, his job would be impossible to do. When Yang Shouying was logging my work points, I could tell she was genuinely worried for me, afraid that Zhao Decheng would eventually take revenge on my family. Not long after I left the village, I ran into Guo Shui driving his donkey cart. He had come out specifically to wait for me. On the way, he asked, "Are you sure about this? What are our chances?" "Over 70%. If you cooperate, we'll hit 80% easy," I said with absolute certainty. Hearing that got Guo Shui all fired up. He still looked at me with a bit of hesitation. After all, the things I told him yesterday were a little hard to believe. HMPH, just follow my lead when the time comes. You've got nothing to lose anyway, I said with a chuckle. We quickly reached an agreement on the road. Guo Shui was quite familiar with the township government. He asked around about Zhao Tieju's case and introduced me to the officials handling it. I reported to the staff that the Zhao family was still causing trouble even after paying the compensation. Yesterday, they even blocked the road to threaten my father. I made my stance crystal clear. There would be absolutely no settlement for Zhao Titsu. We had to teach him a lesson he'd never forget. This case is pretty serious. The township staff quickly gave us their answer. Zhao Titsu is probably getting sent to the county for trial this time. Meanwhile, Guo Shui told me he knew his way around this stuff, and he'd handle the legwork. He told me to just wait for his news. Sure enough, just a day after I got back to the village, word got out. Zhao Titsu had been transferred to the county. Rumor had it he was going to get prison time. Hearing this, the Zhao family completely panicked. I was outside watching my dad and a few villagers fix up our courtyard wall. When Zhao Decheng showed up, Zhao Wankai was with him too. Zhao Wankai was holding a woven bamboo basket in his hands. Inside was a packet of sugar, a cut of meat, and that brand new enamel jar I had brought home earlier. For a gift, this was considered incredibly generous. But I didn't even give it a second glance. I just told them we were busy and didn't even let them through the door. Zhao Decheng's face instantly turned pitch black, probably cursing my family in his head for being so ungrateful. Zhao Wankai, on the other hand, was quite the smooth talker. "Oh, our Titsu. He's just young and impulsive. We were hoping the Lin family could go to the township and drop the charges." Hearing these soft words, Lin Dehu's anger faded by half. He was just about to invite them inside to sit down. When I stopped him, Zhao Decheng sat down heavily on a chair, fuming. All that arrogant swagger of his was gone. After taking a sip of sugar water, he finally looked a bit better. But when he noticed that even the kids in our family were drinking sugar water, his heart sank. He realized this negotiation was not going to be easy. The Lin family was way better off than he had imagined. Sure enough, just as Zhao Decheng was testing the waters, trying to get us to back down, I let out a cold scoff. If your Zhao family was actually sincere, you wouldn't have blocked the road and cursed at my dad a few days ago. There is no room for negotiation on this. Zhao Titsu is going to jail. As soon as I said that, Zhao Decheng couldn't hold it in anymore. "You little brat, you are still wet behind the ears. Running your mouth." Seeing him blow up like that instantly made my blood boil. "Zhao Decheng, how much longer do you think you can play village chief? You really think you own this whole village, do you?" As soon as those words left my mouth, Zhao Decheng's face completely changed. Lin Dehou was startled too. He never expected I would dare to talk back to the village chief so directly. Seeing things going south, Zhao Wankai grabbed Zhao Decheng and dragged him away. As they left, I even shoved their stuff right back into their hands. "You ungrateful little punk. Just you wait and see." He spat. Zhao Decheng was shouting so loudly that all the hired helpers outside heard absolutely everything. Everyone started warning me, saying that crossing the village chief would end badly. After all, the Zhao family still calls the shots around here. "Mom, please don't worry. Just focus on getting a good dinner ready. Let's not give the neighbors anything to gossip about. Feeding helpers back then had strict rules. The white rice couldn't be mixed with any cheap grains. And the dishes had to be rich and greasy, otherwise, our reputation would be completely ruined. Alright, Mom understands. Wang Gilan whipped up 6 different dishes. Chili scrambled eggs, braised pork with radishes, and a whole pot of catfish and tofu soup. When the food hit the table, the helpers were practically drooling. Man, you guys are really going all out. Where did you even get fish in a tough year like this? Song Laoshi, who was always a fast worker, was totally shocked by the massive fish. Wang Gilan stuck to our agreed-upon story, saying she bought it in the county town and kept it alive in a tub. Hearing that, nobody questioned it further. After dinner, old man Ding's son, Ding Laoliu, came over. He asked if Wang Gilan could help cook for them in a few days. Because his family was hosting a wedding party, Wang Gilan agreed right on the spot. After everyone busted their backs for a few days, our courtyard wall was finally finished. It stood a solid 2 meters high. Lin Dehou even brought over a bunch of cacti from Grandpa Guo's place and planted them right along the top of the wall. That way, nobody would dare try climbing over. I instantly felt a huge wave of relief and security. But over at Zhao Dechang's place, he was absolutely fuming. He was constantly plotting ways to make my life a living hell. Lately, there hadn't been a single drop of rain, and all the wells in the village had completely dried up. At the village meeting, Zhao Dechang made an announcement. He ordered me to do the most dangerous job of all, using explosives to blast rocks down in the ravine to find water. One wrong move and that job could easily get you killed. Zhao Dechang was blatantly out for revenge. If you refuse to go, you can kiss this year's work points and grain rations goodbye. Zhao Dechang threatened with an icy glare. Without breaking a sweat, I stood up and made a counter-proposal. Since there is water in the ravine, it means we have a rich underground water supply right here. Why don't we just dig a well right here in the village? It is a hell of a lot safer than blowing up a mountain. I am with Yanji. Digging a well is way safer than blasting rocks. At least nobody will get killed. Another villager chimed in. I think digging a well makes perfect sense too. If the ravine has water, our underground supply must be solid. Let Yanji give it a shot. If it fails, we can figure something else out. Left with no other choice, Zhao Dechang gave me exactly 2 weeks. If I could not find water by then, I'd have no choice but to go blast that mountain. For the next few days, I wandered all around the village with my dad and Guo Shui. I purposely picked an old, abandoned well not too far from my house, planning to dig it even deeper. To make sure Zhao Dechang couldn't pull any dirty tricks, whenever I went down into the well, my dad had to be the one guarding the top. We'd been digging non-stop for a day or two. The bottom of the well was still bone dry. A bunch of villagers started making snide remarks, saying if digging a well actually worked, we would have hit water ages ago. I ignored them. I just kept digging down like crazy. Suddenly, I struck a few red stones. I knew that color all too well. I'd seen this exact type of soil when we were digging the underground river. Dad, come down quick and swap with me. We've got red rocks down here. I shouted, thrilled. Hearing that, Lin Dehou was fired up. The two of us took turns digging all day long. Right around dusk, a shout of pure joy echoed up from the bottom of the well. Water! We've got water! That one holler sent the whole crowd of villagers into an absolute frenzy. People rushed the well like maniacs. Lin Dehou was swallowed up in the middle of the crowd. They hoisted him up like a total hero. Some folks were handing him drinks. Others were fanning him. He'd never felt like such a big shot in his entire life. I just stood on the sidelines, grinning from ear to ear. With this, Zhao Dechang's little scheme had totally gone up in smoke. The whole village stayed up with torches until midnight. By then, the water had already risen over a meter deep. This was literally life-saving water. Guo Shui was over the moon. He absolutely insisted on treating my dad and me to some drinks. The Guo family even slaughtered a rooster. They fried up a plate of cured bacon, too. Taking a sip of booze and biting into that tender chicken, man, it was absolute heaven. Guo Shui couldn't stop praising my skills. Then, he leaned in and whispered, asking what our next move should be. Right now, the guy practically worshipped the ground I walked on. His mind was completely set on how to drag Zhao Dechang right out of that village chief's chair. Brother Guo, this is nothing. You just listen to me. We add a little more fuel to the fire, and that village chief title is all yours." I looked at Guo Shui and said with a smirk. Sitting beside us, Lin Dehou froze mid-bite. He must have felt my guts were getting way too big. Zhao Decheng had been the village chief for years. Around Zhao family village, his word was basically the law. Who would have ever thought he'd be backed into a corner by a kid like me? Now that the village well finally had water, my dad and Guo Shui were the new heroes, while Zhao Decheng's reputation had totally hit rock bottom. Over in the Wang family's courtyard, Guo Shui was drinking with my dad. On the table sat a plate of salted duck eggs and a bowl of fried peanuts. Uncle Guo was hanging out with us too, chiming in. "With this well, life in Zhao family village is gonna be a whole lot easier. I heard in the city, they've got these water pipes. You just twist a knob, and the water comes right out. I wonder if I'll ever live to see something like that," Uncle Guo said with a sigh. Lin Dehou nodded along and chimed in. "Going to the city is great. You can buy literally anything there. So much stuff I've never even seen in my life." But honestly, what he was really thinking about was heading to the city to sell fish and make some real cash. That kind of business beat scraping by in the dirt any day. We drank together until past 7 in the evening. When we finally left, Guo Shui walked us a long way back. On the way home, my dad kept muttering under his breath, "Yinji, what exactly were you and Guo Shui scheming about back there?" The look in his eyes wasn't quite right. "We were just talking about how to take down Zhao Decheng," I replied, lowering my voice. "That guy is pure scum. If he stays as the village chief, he's gonna get everyone killed sooner or later. I think Guo Shui is a decent guy. Pushing him into the spot is the perfect move." Lin Dehou was startled. "You can't just say things like that. Besides, can you really pull it off?" "Whether I can or not, just wait and see, Dad." Seeing that he didn't buy it, I just laughed it off. Anyway, our courtyard wall is already built. It's safe to talk and do things inside the yard. At this time, the lights were still on at Zhao Decheng's house. Zhao Wankai was sitting and drinking at his older brother's place, but the atmosphere was terrifyingly heavy. "Brother, losing that $400 is one thing. But if Tai Zhu actually gets sentenced to prison, our Zhao family is ruined for life." Zhao Decheng sighed. Zhao Wankai was also full of regret. His son, Zhao Taizu, had been way too impulsive and got caught red-handed. He repeatedly urged Zhao Decheng that they absolutely had to deal with the Lin family. "Use money, use power, whatever it takes. As long as we can make the Lins back down and drop the case at the county, we'll have plenty of chances to teach the Lin family a lesson later on." That night, while everyone was busy gossiping about the well, my dad and I borrowed Guo Shouyi's donkey cart and hauled several hundred pounds of catfish and loaches to the black market. Business was surprisingly booming. Even Shen Qingji, who often bought fish, had pre-ordered her batch. But on my way back after buying grain, passing by a pitch-black alley, I suddenly saw a huge black dog running with a swaddled baby in its mouth. I rushed forward and chased the dog away, saving an infant whose face had turned completely purple. It was Shen Qingji who helped me rush the child to the hospital. "This little girl is lucky to be alive. If you were half an hour later, she would have frozen to death." Seeing how pitiful the child was, and thinking about how our family was finally doing better financially, I decided to bring her back to the village and raise her. The day I brought little Anan back, nosy neighbor Old Lady Song caught wind of it and snooped right into our courtyard. She immediately spotted the baby in my arms. "Oh my, Yuan Ji, where on earth did this stray brat come from? You dare bring a bastard child into the house with no name and no status." Old Lady Song's screechy voice exploded across the yard. Before my mom, Wang Guilan, even had a chance to explain, Old Lady Song, acting all high and mighty because of her age, ripped open and swaddled to take a peek at the novelty. Just then, Anan kicked her little legs, and that dark purplish red mark on her lower back. That handprint birthmark was exposed. The flab on Old Lady Song's face violently twitched. She looked like she'd seen a ghost, trembling as she pointed at the birthmark. This handprint, this palm mark. Oh my god, I was completely stunned, too. "Auntie Song, what's wrong with you?" Old Lady Song stumbled back 3 steps and collapsed onto the ground, muttering like a madwoman, "It's a sin. Oh, what a sin. 20 years ago, when Zhao Decheng's first wife died, she had the exact same handprint on her. People said it was slapped on by the dead old man of the Zhao family himself. It's a cursed sin. This baby, This baby is the Zhao family's seed. My heart skipped a beat. Looking at an in my arms, I remembered that absurd, long-buried secret in the village from my past life. I gently touched the spot on An's lower back. The child's skin was incredibly soft, but right there on her lower back, there was a dark purple birthmark about the size of a fingernail. The mark looked bizarre, and if you looked closely, it looked exactly like a tiny handprint. The old folks in the village always used to say that children reborn with a mark like this had suffered terrible injustice in their past lives, and were slapped down to the mortal realm by the judge of hell himself. I wonder if that old legend is actually true. I just felt so sorry for the poor thing. News of me bringing An home spread through the whole village in no time. Plenty of folks with too much time on their hands all came flocking to our house to be nosy. I didn't try to hide anything, either. I told them straight up that I saved her right from the jaws of a big black dog. I even put the word out. If anyone knows who her parents are, please let us know. But the words had barely left my mouth when a nasty, bitter voice piped up from outside. Did your boy Yinji get his brain knocked out? Why on earth would he drag home a useless little burden like that? If you ask me, this brat is probably some family's dirty little secret. That's why she got tossed in the dirt for the dogs. The one running her mouth was old lady Song from next door. She was leaning against the wall, her beady eyes full of disgust. The second my mother, Wang Gilan, heard that, the smile instantly dropped from her face. She held An a little tighter. You really can't say a single decent thing, can you? Without the useless burdens you're talking about. Did your precious sons and grandsons just pop out of a rock? Our family gaining a member is a blessing. We don't need your 2 cents. My mom was usually the sweetest person, but she absolutely despised that old sexist mindset. She loved her own 2 daughters more than anything. Now, seeing old lady Song treat this freshly rescued little life like absolute trash, she wasn't going to hold back at all. Old lady Song's wrinkled face turned beet red with anger. She slammed her cane on the dirt, raising her voice even louder. I am only telling the truth. Just look at your son, he's a total deadbeat, always running off somewhere, and your husband is too soft for his own good. You folks can barely put food on your own table, yet you're taking in a stray? And she gets married, you'll have to cough up a dowry. If that's not a money pit, what is? Old lady Song had been bottling up a lot of rage lately. Her daughter-in-law, young Shoying, had just become the village point keeper. So she was always busy working and balancing the books. That meant she wasn't home to take the old lady's abuse, and nobody was there to argue with her. So, of course, the moment she saw my mom getting worked up, she was absolutely thrilled for a fight. But I wasn't going to just stand by and watch. I marched right out of the house and said coldly, Granny Song, whether we can afford to raise her or not, she is eating our grain and drinking water from our well. We aren't exactly raiding your pantry, are we? If you are really that bored, go back home and count how many sweet potatoes you have left. Stop making a nuisance of yourself here. Old lady Song was absolutely speechless from my retort. She pointed a trembling finger right at my nose, ready to scream, just as her son got off work. He was a reasonable guy. Seeing his old mother stirring up trouble again, he rushed over and dragged her away without letting her say another word. Young Shoying trailed behind him, looking absolutely mortified. She apologized to us over and over again. Shoying was actually a really good person. She used to be an educated youth from the city, so she was well read and sensible. She walked right over to my mom and looked at little and unbundled in her swaddle, her eyes softening with absolute warmth. Auntie, you know how my mother-in-law is. Please don't take her seriously. It just so happens I have plenty of milk right now. If you're ever too busy, or if Anon goes hungry, just bring her right over to my place. I'd be more than happy to nurse her. Shoying, thank you so much. Wang Gilan grasped Yang Shuying's hands warmly, sighing, when you have some time, you should talk some sense into Song Laoshi. Your mother-in-law loves stirring up trouble. You and your husband need to be on the exact same page. Don't let that old lady tear your family apart. Young Shoying kept her head down, looking a bit miserable. Auntie, I know all of this. I've been thinking about splitting up the household, but my husband keeps saying his little brother isn't married yet. He wants to help them out for a few more years. He really is a dutiful son, but it's making life so hard for me and my kid. Wang Gilan gave her some advice. You two should talk it over quietly in bed. He is a good young man. He will understand you. After sending her off, the sky had turned completely pitch black. I used the cover of night to sneak over to Guo Shoyi's house. He had just finished his dinner, and was sitting out in the yard, smoking his pipe. Seeing me walk in, his face immediately turned dead serious. I remembered the village rumors from my past life. Zhao Decheng and his niece-in-law, Sun Chaoyun, had some sort of dirty little secret. Since the kid has the exact same birthmark on his waist, keeping a close eye on Sun Chaoyun was definitely the right move. We went into the back room. I pulled a piece of paper out of my pocket. Written right on it was one name, Sun Chaoyun. I handed the paper over to him and whispered, "Brother Guo, I need you to work hard for the next few days. Keep a close eye on this woman. Pay special attention to whoever sneaks into her house in the middle of the night. If you see anything at all, tell me immediately. If we actually pull this off, your position as the militia captain might just move up a rank or two." He stared down at that name, his pupils shrinking in shock. He looked up at me in absolute disbelief. "Yinji, are you absolutely sure? This Sun Chaoyun is the Zhao family's niece-in-law. She is Zhao Tieju's sister-in-law. Her husband is still out of town building the canal. And you want me to spy on her? Man, if word of this ever gets out, we are doing big things here, we cannot sweat the small stuff." I let out a cold sneer. The Zhao family wants us to just swallow this bitter pill, so we have to dig up their filthy, rotten roots. He gritted his teeth and slapped his thigh hard. "Screw it, I will trust you this once." While he and I were plotting in secret, the Zhao brothers were pacing around anxiously on the other side of town. Zhao Wankai and Zhao Decheng had already met up twice over the last 2 days. The compensation had been raised to 400 yuan, but my side still had not backed down at all. This made Zhao Decheng, as the village head, feel like he was losing a lot of face. "Big brother, why don't we just play hardball?" He took a fierce, deep drag of his cigarette, a flash of pure ruthlessness in his eyes. "Those brats from the Lin family. If we grab any of them to scare the living daylights out of them, Lin Dehou will definitely cave. Then we can step in, play the good guys, and settle this whole mess." "Simple, you fool." Zhao Wankai immediately cursed back at him. "The whole village is watching that well of theirs right now. And Guo Shui is tight with them too. If you use violence right now, aren't you just handing leverage over to that guy named Luo? Just wait a little longer. I will go talk to them again tomorrow. If that does not work, we will just offer more cash." He was completely boiling over with rage. By the time he walked out of his big brother's house, it was pitch black outside. He originally planned on heading straight home, but after taking just a few steps, he couldn't keep down the frustration and the burning itch inside, so he simply turned around and walked toward a row of secluded single-story houses behind the village. He stopped in front of a rickety wooden door and gave it 3 gentle knocks. "Chaoyun, it's me." The light inside quickly flickered on. Even though it was dimmed, it was glaringly obvious in the pitch-black night. Sun Chaoyun opened the door just a crack. When she saw it was Zhao Decheng, a sickeningly sweet smile instantly spread across her face, and she hurriedly pulled him inside. The kerosene lamp in the room went out right after. Hiding behind a haystack not far away, Guo Shui was so shocked he nearly bit his own tongue off. That Zhao Decheng is an absolute piece of trash. He'd even kill his own flesh and blood. Seeing Zhao Decheng about to walk out, he quickly hunched over and slipped back into the shadows. Once Zhao Decheng was far away, Guo Shui bolted straight to my house without stopping, practically dragging me out of bed. After hearing what Guo Shui had to say, everything clicked into place for me. That birthmark on an N's waist, he actually inherited it from Zhao Decheng. I patted Guo Shui on the shoulder and said in a low, serious tone, "Brother Guo, we've got solid proof now. At the village meeting tomorrow, not only are we going to save this boy, we are going to tear that hypocritical mask right off Zhao Decheng's face. As for what to do next, just follow my lead." After seeing Guo Shui out, I went back into the bedroom, and was still fast asleep. I looked at his tiny, innocent little face, and gently changed him into a clean diaper. From now on, this kid's last name is Lin. As for that scumbag Zhao, his sweet ride as the village chief is officially over. Meanwhile, over in the county town, Shen Qing was feeling completely fed up. Her family had set her up with the factory director's son, Wu Tianqi. The guy acted all high and mighty because of his family's money, buzzing around Shen Qing like a giant, annoying Fly every single day, bragging about how many rare industrial coupons he could get his hands on. Shen Qing frowned and said, "If you don't have anything else to do, you should just leave. I still have reports to go over." Without waiting for him to say another word, she just turned her back on him. The next morning, just as the sky was starting to lighten, the rusty old loudspeaker at the Zhao Village Brigade headquarters started screeching to life. Zhao Dechang's usual pretentious, bossy voice echoed so loud you could hear it halfway across the village. "Attention all commune members. At 8 a.m. this morning, everyone is to gather at the brigade headquarters field for a mass meeting. No household is allowed to be absent." I was right in the middle of changing an N's diaper in his swaddle. The little guy slept so peacefully last night, his chubby little cheeks all flushed and pink. When I teased him, he waved his tiny fists and giggled happily. Wang Gilan walked in carrying a bowl of freshly made warm rice cereal. Seeing this sweet scene, she couldn't stop smiling, but the second she heard that screechy loudspeaker, her eyebrows instantly twisted into a tight knot. "Yanji, I bet that Zhao Dechang is up to no good. This whole meeting is absolutely aimed straight at you." She set the bowl down on the edge of the bed, reaching out to gently stroke An's little cheek. When Guo Shui came with the news yesterday, he said Zhao Dechang went out in the middle of the night to find Zhao Wankai and his bunch of Zhao family cronies. They locked themselves in and plotted for half the night. God only knows what kind of dirty tricks they're brewing up. I bundled An up safely and handed him over to my mom. A cold smirk tugging at the corner of my mouth. Zhao Dechang's pathetic little scheme? I can see right through it with my eyes closed. He knows I have proof of his dirty little affair with Sun Chaoyun. Instead of waiting for me to expose him, he figures he'd better strike first. He's using Anon as an excuse to drag my name through the mud first. Ideally, he wants to pin a kidnapping and harassment charge right on my head. Throw me straight into the lockup. That way, he shuts me up for good, and keeps his cushy spot as village chief. "Mom, what are you panicking for?" I wiped my hands and grabbed the water jug off the table. I gulped down some cold water. If he wants to set a trap for me, we'll just beat him at his own game. He wants to humiliate me in front of the whole village, right? Then I'll make him strip off his own hypocritical mask for everyone to see. Just as I said that, footsteps echoed from the courtyard. Guo Shui pushed the door open and walked in. He brought the morning chill in with him, clutching a cloth bundle in his hands. His face was dead serious. "Yanji, everything is set up." He dropped the bundle onto the table. Inside was a brand new military canteen, along with a written testimony he'd drafted overnight, stamped with his fingerprint. Last night, right after Zhao Dechang left Sun Chaoyun's room, he went straight to Zhao Wankai's house. They hatched a plan. Today at the assembly, they'll have Sun Chaoyun come out crying first. Hearing there was drama to watch, even folks from the neighboring villages came running. Up on the dirt stage in the middle of the field, Zhao Dechang stood wearing a faded official's uniform. He had his hands behind his back, putting on a perfectly righteous and strict face. Zhao Wankai had over a dozen strong guys from the Zhao family surrounding both sides of the stage. Every single one of them was glaring intensely, standing guard like bouncers. You could tell right away they were looking for trouble. I held Anon and brought my parents along. Strolling over at a steady pace, Guo Shui and a few brothers from the militia trailed closely behind us. Grandpa Guo, leaning heavily on his cane, was helped into a chair right at the front of the stage. That was the seat of the utmost respect in the village. No matter how arrogant Zhao Dechang was, he wouldn't dare act up in front of the old man. Seeing me arrive, a ruthless glint flashed in Zhao Dechang's eyes. He grabbed the megaphone, cleared his throat, and shouted at the top of his lungs, "Fellow villagers, we are holding this assembly today to deal with a disgusting scandal right here in our village. Our Zhao village has always been a decent, law-abiding place. But projecting such an intimidating aura, those young thugs were actually stopped dead in their tracks." I carried Anon and stepped onto the stage, one step at a time, my cold gaze sweeping right past Zhao Dechang. "Chief Zhao, you'd better watch your mouth. You're claiming I kidnapped a kid? That I'm some kind of creep? Where's the proof? You think you can just pin the blame on me with nothing but hot air? Is this how you run things as village chief? Proof? Of course I have proof." Zhao Dechang sneered and shouted down at the crowd. "Chaoyun, get up here. Tell everyone in the village exactly what this animal did to you. Don't be afraid, the village has your back." The crowd parted. Sun Chaoyun walked up, her head bowed, sobbing hysterically. She was wearing old, patched-up clothes, her hair in an absolute mess. Her eyes were red and swollen, looking like she'd suffered the greatest injustice in the world. The moment she stepped on stage, she pointed right at me and shrieked through her tears. It was Yanji. A few days ago, when I was heading back to my parents' house, he ambushed me on the road. He put his hands all over me, and then he snatched away my newborn baby. My daughter has a palm-sized birthmark on her lower back. The baby he brought back is mine. Another uproar ripped through the crowd. The way they looked at me changed in an instant. Zhao Decheng looked at me with a smug grin, acting like he already had this in the bag. Yanji, what else do you have to say? We have the witnesses and the evidence right here. Still trying to worm your way out of this? I looked right at Sun Chaoyun, and suddenly smiled. I slowly pulled back an unswaddle, revealing the clear, palm-sized birthmark on the baby's lower back. Then, I locked eyes with Sun Chaoyun. My voice was dead calm, but it carried a crushing weight. Sun Chaoyun, you claim this baby is yours? Then let me ask you, what time was this baby born? How much did she weigh at birth? Is there a vaccination scar on her left arm? When she nurses, does she prefer the left side or the right? This rapid-fire barrage of questions left Sun Chaoyun completely dumbfounded. She just stood there, her face deathly pale. Her lips trembled, but she couldn't stammer out a single word for the longest time. She hadn't even taken care of the baby for a few days. How the hell could she know these details? Can't answer? I let out a cold sneer. I shifted my gaze to Zhao Decheng. Then how about we let our dear village head answer for her? After all, this baby's biological father is none other than you, Zhao Decheng. Oh, almighty village head Zhao. Those words hit like a crack of thunder, exploding right across the village square. The entire crowd fell into a dead, suffocating silence. He was about to lunge forward and snatch the written testimony from Guo Shouyi's hands, but he had barely moved a muscle. When Grandpa Guo slammed his walking stick hard into the ground, thud, the impact made the whole stage tremble. The old man stood up straight, his eyes sharp as daggers, glaring a hole right through Zhao Decheng. Zhao Decheng, you freeze right there. Guo Shui was the militia captain. As if his testimony could be faked. Last night, I had 2 of my militiamen tail him. Every single word you 2 said in that room. They heard it loud and clear from the outside. What else do you have to say? Zhao Decheng instantly froze in his tracks. Every last drop of color drained from his face. And right at that exact moment, thump, Sun Chaoyun suddenly dropped to her knees, frantically kowtowing to the furious crowd below. Crying her heart out, she wailed, I'll confess. I'll confess to everything. This baby belongs to me and Zhao Decheng. He forced me. He said if I didn't do what he wanted, he'd kill me and the baby. A few days ago, he told me to throw the baby out to feed the dogs. I couldn't bear to do it, but I didn't dare disobey him. He even said that as long as we could get Yanji locked up today, he would give me $50 and let me take the baby and run far away. Sobbing hysterically, she pulled a crumpled diary out from her clothes and held it high above her head. Everything he ever wrote to me is in here, and all the records of him skimming the village's work points and stealing our collective property over the years. It's all in here too. This was an absolute, earth-shattering bombshell. Zhao Decheng stared blankly at that diary. His legs gave out, and he collapsed into a heap on the stage. He knew his goose was completely cooked. The crowd below absolutely exploded. Deafening curses shook the air. The villagers had been sick and tired of Zhao Decheng's corrupt favoritism and thievery for years. Now that the ugly truth was finally out, old grudges and new hatred boiled over all at once. Eggs, rotten cabbage leaves, and clods of dirt rained down onto the stage like a furious storm. They smashed directly into Zhao Decheng. You sick animal, you wouldn't even spare your own nephew's wife. Strip him of his village chief title. Send him to the police station. Make him spit out every last cent he embezzled from us all these years. Right at that moment, 2 jeeps from the commune drove into the village, stopping right at the entrance of the brigade headquarters. Yesterday, I had already sent Guo Shui to tip off the commune in advance. Everything about Zhao Decheng and Sun Chaoyun, along with his embezzlement of our collective property, I exposed it all to the higher-ups. The commune secretary had already caught wind of it and specially brought his men over today. They caught him perfectly red-handed. A commune official marched right up onto the stage, didn't even spare a glance at Zhao Decheng, who was slumped on the ground, grabbed the megaphone, and loudly announced. Effective immediately, Zhao Decheng is suspended from his duties as the chief of Zhao family village. Regarding his moral misconduct and economic corruption, an official investigation has been opened. All involved parties are to be taken back to the commune for questioning immediately. 2 police officers stepped forward and immediately slapped handcuffs on Zhao Decheng. Zhao Decheng's face was ashen, completely drained of color, as he was dragged away. When they dragged him past me, he suddenly jerked his head up. His eyes were burning with pure venom. Lin Yanji, I won't let you get away with this. Holding little Anan in my arms, I just stared back at him with a dead cold gaze. Zhao Decheng, you'd better worry about yourself first. Let's see if you can even survive those years in the labor camp. Everything you owed me in our past life, I've collected it all back in this life, with interest. Zhao Decheng was shoved into the jeep, and Sun Chaoyun was also hauled away to give her statement. Every single member of the Zhao family hung their heads in utter defeat. Amidst the spitting and cursing of the entire village, they scurried back home with their tails between their legs. This mass meeting ultimately ended with the absolute downfall of Zhao Decheng. And as for me, Lin Yanji, I became the one person everyone in Zhao family village looked up to. As I walked back home carrying an in, the sunlight spilling over my shoulders felt incredibly warm. Wang Gilan took an in from my arms, smiling from ear to ear. You are just amazing. The Zhao family will never dare to bully us again. Lin Dehou also stood a little taller. And all along the way, villagers kept warmly greeting him, calling out, Uncle Wanshan. He had never felt so proud and respected in his entire life. But deep down, I knew. This was only the beginning. The Zhao family had been deeply entrenched in this village for decades. They weren't going to just roll over and surrender. The real battle was still to come. And as for little Anan, his existence hadn't just ripped away the Zhao family's pathetic facade. He had also become my greatest weakness, the one I had to protect with my life. The news of Zhao Decheng's arrest grew wings. And within a single day, it had spread across over a dozen neighboring villages. Overnight, the Zhao family became the laughingstock of the entire region. People were literally pointing fingers and cursing them behind their backs wherever they walked. Zhao Wankai, the patriarch of the Zhao clan, was so consumed by rage and panic that he suffered a massive stroke that very night. Half of his body was completely paralyzed. He could only lie there in bed, groaning pitifully, unable to force out a single word. Without their leader, the Zhao family instantly descended into total chaos. Zhao Titsu was still sitting in the county jail waiting for his sentence. That left the 2 remaining brothers, Zhao Tijun and Zhao Tianyu, as the only ones left who could take charge of the family. But these 2? One was nothing but a reckless meathead, and the other was a ruthless snake. Their minds were entirely consumed with how to get back at me and avenge the Zhao family name. But I had seen this coming from a mile away. When you back a rabid dog into a corner, it's only going to bite back harder. The very day the mass meeting ended, I had my dad heavily reinforce our courtyard walls. We even planted 2 extra rows of sharp cacti right along the top. Every night before bed, the courtyard gate and the house doors were all locked tight. My 2 younger sisters took turns keeping watch in the yard. We didn't dare let our guard down for a second. Guo Shui even went out of his way to tell me, the Zhao family has been getting together to drink every single day lately, cursing and swearing. They're constantly talking about killing you, so you have to be extra careful. Try not to go out at night. I'll also have the guys from the militia step up their patrols around your house after dark. But I never expected the Zhao family to be this shameless, actually stooping to such dirty, underhanded tricks. It happened in the middle of the night, right around 2 or 3 in the morning. The whole village was fast asleep, and even the dogs had stopped barking. I was half asleep when suddenly, I heard a noise coming from outside the courtyard wall. Just a faint rustling sound, immediately followed by a muffled cry of pain. I was wide awake in an instant. I grabbed the iron bar I kept ready by the bed, crept quietly over to the window, and pulled back a corner of the curtain to peek outside. I saw 2 dark figures hanging right there on the wall, groaning from getting pricked by the cactus on top. But another figure had already dropped into the yard, and was sneaking his way toward the front door. It was Zhao Tai Niu and Zhao Tai Jun. I sneered to myself. Just as I thought, they came. I didn't make a sound, and just shot a look at my dad in the back room. Lin Dehu was already wide awake, gripping his hoe tightly and holding his breath, waiting for the shadow to get closer. That sneaking figure was none other than Zhao Tai Niu. He was holding a dagger in his hand as he crept right up to the door. Just as he reached out to pick the lock, I violently yanked the door open and brought the iron bar crashing down on his arm. With a sickening crack, his bones snapped. Zhao Tai Niu let out a blood-curdling scream like a slaughtered pig. The dagger clattered to the ground, and he collapsed, curling up into a ball of agony. He was rolling around on the floor. Up on the wall, Zhao Tai-jun heard the commotion and was scared out of his wits. He tried to jump down and make a run for it, but his clothes got snagged on the cactus, and he pitched headfirst off the 2-meter-high wall. He landed face first, smashing his face until it was covered in blood. Right at that moment, rapid footsteps echoed. Outside the gate, flashing with torchlight, Guo Shui burst in with a few militia men, waving their clubs, and ran right into Zhao Tai-jun sprawling on the ground. They piled on and pinned him straight to the dirt. Gotcha, breaking and entering in the middle of the night, and armed with a weapon, too. Guo Shui roared. He swept his flashlight across the yard, spotting Zhao Tai-jun wailing on the ground. And the dagger dropped on the dirt. His face darkened instantly. Well, you bastards have really crossed the line this time. Your Zhao family is completely out of control. Sneaking into someone's home at night with a knife. This is absolutely going too far. My dad threw open the courtyard gate. Wang Guilan was clutching little Anin, who had been woken up, while my 2 sisters stood there pale with fear. Looking at those Zhao brothers on the ground, she was trembling with absolute rage. You animals, you're completely sick in the head. Wang Guilan pulled Anin tight against her chest. What on earth did our family ever do to you? You ruined our whole family in the last life, and now you want to wipe us out completely in this one? By now, all the neighbors had been jolted awake too, and were rushing over, holding up their kerosene lamps. One look at this scene, and everyone understood perfectly. Seeing Zhao Tianyu on the ground with his arm broken, along with Zhao Tijun pinned to the dirt, and those 2 gleaming daggers. The whole village instantly blew up. The Zhao family has lost their damn minds. They were trying to murder him. Damn right, Zhao Dechang just got locked up, and they already dared to show up and attack. Is there no law anymore? Exactly, drag them to the commune. No, straight to the police station. Scum like this needs to be locked up. Pinned to the ground, Zhao Tijun was still running his mouth, craning his neck and screaming, Yinji. You filthy gutter rat, you ruined the Zhao family. I won't let you off, even if I become a ghost. Now, there were loads of rotten cabbage leaves and filth, making the well water as murky as mud. It was completely undrinkable. This was the lifeline well I had led the villagers to dig. During this massive drought, the entire village relied entirely on this well for drinking water. Now that the water was contaminated, panic instantly swept through the village. By the time I rushed over to the well, a huge crowd had already gathered around it. Everyone looked completely miserable, and the cursing was non-stop. Which miserable bastard did this? Aren't they just cutting off our only way to survive? In a drought like this, water is our life. Throwing garbage into the well, this is trying to kill the whole damn village. I crouched by the well, inspecting the filth in the water, and then took a sniff to check the smell. Instantly, I knew exactly what was going on. I stood up, looked at the crowd gathering around, and called out loudly, everyone, don't panic. They only threw garbage into the well. The water hasn't been poisoned. As long as we drain it clean and scatter some lime to disinfect it, we'll be able to use it again in a couple of days. I paused for a moment, my eyes turning cold as I swept my gaze over a few shifty-looking distant relatives of the Zhao family hiding in the crowd. As for who did this, I know damn well who it is. The only ones in our village who have a grudge against this well, and would love to see the whole village die of thirst, is no one else but the Zhao family. The moment I said that, the villagers absolutely lost it. Everyone was already furious about the Zhao brothers, trying to murder me in the middle of the night, and now, they actually dared to throw garbage into the public well? This crossed the ultimate line for the whole village. Those animals from the Zhao family, they're completely heartless. Come on, let's go get him. Make them pay for it. Make them clean out the well. Boiling with rage, dozens of villagers grabbed their carrying poles and hose, and marched aggressively right toward the Zhao family compound. I didn't try to stop them. The Zhao family had done something completely unforgivable, and they needed to pay the price. By the time Guo Shui and I caught up at the Zhao house, the courtyard gates had already been smashed wide open by the mob. Everything in the yard was smashed to pieces. A few women from the Zhao family were huddled in the corner, sobbing and trembling in absolute terror. I blocked the villagers who were still trying to charge inside, and yelled out, "Everyone, stop right now. Smashing things isn't going to fix anything. The most important thing right now is to get that well cleaned out. So we all have water to drink." As for what the Zhao family did, they had to pay for what they did. Eventually, under the pressure from the whole village, the rest of the Zhao family not only had to cover all the costs for cleaning and disinfecting the well, they also had to spit out every single penny of the collective funds that Zhao Dechang had embezzled. The commune sent people down, too. Because of the contaminated well water, they investigated the Zhao family all over again. The few decent houses they had left were mortgaged to the village. Lying there in his hospital bed, Zhao Wankai couldn't catch his breath, and he kicked the bucket that very night. And just like that, the Zhao family, who had been throwing their weight around the village for decades, completely crumbled. They could never make waves again. When the news reached us, I was down in the underground cave with my dad, checking on the hidden river. Hearing about the Zhao family's downfall, Lin Dehou just let out a heavy sigh. He didn't say a word, just reached out and patted my shoulder. I knew he had finally let go of all that pent-up anger. The bitter blood feud from my past life. I had finally avenged it with my own 2 hands. The underground river rushed by, its crystal clear water reflecting the flickering light of our torches. Schools of fish swam past in droves, their plump bodies flashing through the water. Looking at this hidden river, I knew exactly what I had to do. I was going to rely on this river to guide my family through this era of starvation and poverty, and help us live with real dignity. I was going to truly change our destiny. With the huge threat of the Zhao family finally out of the way, I could finally breathe easy and focus on managing this underground river. I remembered from my past life that this massive drought would last for another whole year. We wouldn't see a proper drop of rain until next summer. For the next year, water and food would be the ultimate hard currency. And my underground river was a gold mine that would never run dry. Before, I was just sneaking wild catfish from the river to sell at the black market. But that was nowhere near enough. The cave was absolutely massive. It had constant temperature and perfect humidity. Besides raising fish, there was so much more we could do here. First, I brought my dad down, and we spent a solid 2 weeks completely reorganizing the cave. We used stones to build several breeding pools right by the riverbank, separating the fish by size. We kept the big ones for selling, and kept the little fingerlings safely penned up. That way, we'd never run out of stock, and the cycle could just keep going. Aside from the catfish, I also found plenty of carp and crucian carp in the river, and even a few soft-shelled turtles. We carefully raised all of them. These were highly sought-after luxuries in the city. After that, I found a dry, flat, elevated spot inside the cave, and cleared it out to build a mushroom room. In the 70s, mushrooms were still a total rarity. Big restaurants and factory canteens in the city were fighting tooth and nail for them. Plus, mushrooms aren't picky about soil. As long as they have water and the right temperature, they'll grow. They were perfect for the cave. I made a special trip to the county town and asked old Qian for a favor. He helped me get a bunch of cottonseed hulls, sawdust, and mushroom spores. Old Qian and I had been working together for a while now, and he practically treated me like his personal money tree. Whatever I needed, he'd break his back to get it for me. Not only that, but he also signed a long-term supply contract with me. He agreed to buy every single fish and mushroom I produced, guaranteeing top dollar. Shortly after planting the spores, they sprouted beautiful, pure white mycelium. Plump little mushrooms started popping right up, growing nice and fat. Just looking at them made us so happy. When we harvested that first batch, it weighed well over 200 pounds. We hauled them to the county town, and old Qian bought them all up in a flash. We made over $80 just like that. When Lin Dehou held that thick stack of 10 yuan bills, his hands were actually shaking. He had been farming his whole life, and never in a million years did he think that just by growing some mushrooms in the dirt, he could make this much money. Now, aside from our little business in the cave, I wasn't slacking off up on the surface, either. I routed the water from the underground river through buried bamboo tubes, secretly piping it right into our backyard garden. With that endless supply of water, it didn't matter how bad the drought got, our backyard garden stayed completely lush and green. I had Mom and Dad help me plant cabbages, radishes, peppers, and tomatoes out in the garden. We even set up a simple little plastic greenhouse and grew off-season veggies, like cucumbers and green beans. In an era where folks could barely get enough to eat, having a bite of fresh leafy greens in the dead of winter was something you wouldn't even dare to dream of. As for our vegetables, aside from what we ate ourselves, I'd secretly haul the rest to the county town and sell them to old Jian, along with a few city clients that Shen Qing introduced to me.